Alright, so that should be done now, and there you go. Looks like points. So now we actually need to do the shading part, which is pretty fun. Save that. Go over into the material area. We have our principled ground shader here. Now we're going to need two of these. So copy and paste that. We're going to need one for the ground as is seen through the water, which should not get a wet map because it's already underwater, and one that is outside, the thing that actually has the wet map. The wet map being, again, an approximation of a thin layer of water. So I'll say the one that's already on there is the external one, and the one that will be representing the inside will be the internal one. Now it's the external one that we need to modify to actually see this work. So frame 72, I'll jump over to here because we're going to have to start rendering this too. So right click and hold, allow editing of contents. So here we are inside the shader. It looks like a lot going on here, but it's really not so bad. The main core of it is literally the principled shader core. That's like the brain. And you can see everything that feeds into it is just kind of duplicates of each other. All these chunks here are kind of all the same thing. Like this is the base color, and this is the metallic color, and this is the transparency thing, and and so on and so forth. So what are we interested in? We're interested in two things. One is just making the color darker in areas that are close to these points. So here's the base color one. So we need to follow this one. So there we go. Base color. A little secret is we have all this stuff here. If you want to hide all that, don't select the base color one, but select this one that's next to it. Say actions. Come on. Or no, actually, rather, I'm sorry, inputs, and then hide inputs. So now everything that was leading into him, which was all this stuff, is now hidden. I didn't want to do it on this node because I want to keep these around. So base color is the color that's set to currently. That's not so bad. We still want it to usually be that color. We just want it to be the other color sometimes. So what do we need for that? We need first to read our point cloud. So point cloud open is the core, the crux of this thing here. Point cloud open reads a file in. What file does it read? Well, the ones that we just made. So click the gear next to it and click promote parameter. You'll see it makes a little nubbin here. And if we go back up to our principled shader, you can see it added that parameter on the bottom here, point cloud texture. So let's go get it. We know it's in the wet map cache. It's this. This is literally this file. So copy that parameter and come back to here. We're going to say paste absolute references to that. So close. There we go. And that will, of course, if you middle click it, it resolves to the same file name, because of course it does. So coming back in here, so now we have it. We've opened that file. That data now exists for us. Now the file, the way point clouds work is you look into them at a certain location and then find how many points are close to you and potentially even get what attributes there are. So we can drop down a global variables here to get the position. So you can plug the position into there. But this actually doesn't work. This would work, this literal thing would work in a geometry VOP. These are VOPs, Vex operators. But because we're in the shading area, the materials area, position means something else now. Normally, position means the actual position, the P attribute in world space. But when we're in the shader, P means the position in camera space. Everything has been transformed to be relative to the camera. And that's a problem for us because when we saved this file, the XYZs of all the points in there are in terms of world space. So they won't line up to what this P is here. Fortunately, it's extremely easy to fix. Put a transform down and say, well, transform it. Transform it from the camera to the world, because that is what this is actually in. So there you go. Crisis averted. So now we actually want to read that. The point cloud itself has a radius and a number of points. Now, the radius is the maximum distance it will look to find the 10 closest points. So this could be a lot, and it doesn't really matter if you only put 1. If you only put 1, it's only ever going to look at the closest point. I'm going to say look at the closest 3 points, and sure, keep it kind of close by as an optimization to help it look things up faster. To actually get the value, there's a few ways to do that, but I'm going to say use point cloud filter, which will take the points that it found, in this case 3. So connect the handle to the handle being the memory address to the point cloud structure that exists in memory. And we want the wetness attribute. So at this point, we have it. We have whether it's wet or not. 0 being not wet, 1 being wet, and then anything between being that kind of, evaporaty fall off business. So the rest of it's pretty easy. We can make a new parameter. We already have the default color, so let's make another color. And this will be the wet color. And we can say mix between those two colors. When you are wet, choose this color. So put this one in first. That's when it's going to be 0. Put this one in when it's going to be 1. And this is the bias, that filter that blends between the two. So this is now the new color. So that should be it. So coming back out here, I'm going to say we'll go to our out context. I'm going to turn off, for now, the actual liquid stuff and white water. Let's just look at the ground. So if we come here, let's render it. That should work. We should see dark brown, or we should see, we didn't actually set the color yet. So we should look the same, actually. Well, it looks like black. So it is working. That actually looks really cool. It looks like charcoal. In any case, so go to the matte. That's just the default color, I guess, is black. So whatever we set this to will be what it changes to. So here it is with the same color brown. I'm going to say make it be like half of this. Make the value, meaning the brightness, be half. So now it's just darker in this area. So that's pretty cool, right? I'm going to start it with, let's take a nice little snapshot. Let's add to our snapshot collection. So that's good enough. So snapshot, and now come back in here, change the value to 0.15. That will update the RGB accordingly. So there you go. So now it's darker brown wherever the water, has touched, and will be less so in other areas as it fades away. So that's pretty cool. We have the shader doing something different based on data that we simulated. That's the power of Houdini here, is that we get to use attributes in this way all the way to the end of the pipeline. So I'll snapshot that also. Save it to disk too, because that's what we're doing now, I guess. Save this. The other thing we want to do is drive the roughness. Right now the roughness is 0.8, I think. So let's grab this, because this has the same value, and let's travel all the way down. In fact, where are we going? Let's go look at the, that's annoying. Let's look at this again. We want to find the rough attribute, or the rough parameter rather. So there it is, rough. So let's follow that down. So here's the rough right there. So we apparently overshot it. There you go. Oh, that's any, so I guess I missed it. There's rough. So the roughness is a similar thing. Right now, this is what we set it to, which I believe, again, is 0.8. So once again, we need another parameter to be the wet roughness, which I can already tell you is going to be 0. We want to not be rough at all. We want to be completely slick. So we need to do a similar thing where we'll take a fit range and say, let's take the value that's coming in And when it's 1, it's going to be this second thing. And when it's 0, it's going to be this first thing. So the second thing, when it's 1, is this. And the first thing is this. Like so. And now, once again, this becomes the new roughness value. So coming back out here, this should now look all slick and shiny and weird. And here's hoping. Yeah. Look at that. That alone looks cool. And again, we're doing all this in one shader. Just dry and bright out here and then wet. It looks like the river literally just stopped flowing through here a moment ago. It looks cool on its own. Of course, we're only going to see this in little tiny areas next to where the river is, but, you know, it'll still be cool. So that's really awesome. So that clearly works. So take one more screenshot, save it, pause it, save our file too. I've done that for a while.